Well, welcome back to another episode here on the Inkwell Lounge. I'm your host, Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and in this week, I caught up with competitive player and fellow content creator Theo, who you may know better online as Lorcana Theo. He and I spent some talking about his journey with the game, his passion for deck building, and his approach to competitive play, including the mental aspect of the game. Sound interesting? Well, let's get to it. Well, hey Theo, how's it going?
Hey, Chris, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. It's a lovely day here in Northwest Montana, so
That's
that always
amazing.
helps. Yeah,
Yeah, we've got
got
a
to
nice
sit outside for lunch and everything. It was great.
Oh, the dream.
I know, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yep.
and enjoy it because I don't know about you, but being here in Canada, we've got a nice 5, 6 months of this, and then it's back to
Yep.
Igloo Town, snow zone.
Yeah, we're about the same, honestly. I think about like mid-September it starts cooling off.
Mhm.
And so yeah, we've had even a couple of Halloweens where it's like people in coats and
Yeah,
everything just because it's so cold.
a lot more recently, I've been noticing that seems to be an ongoing trend like every year.
Yep, yep, definitely more extremes. Well,
hmm
well, cool. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to sit down with me today. I really appreciate it. I'm glad it worked out to where we could make it happen this week. But so one of the first things that I like to do with the people that I talk to, is to kind of get their background, kind of get their origin story with the game.
hmm
Whether they've played TCGs, like other TCGs in the past, or if this is the first one, all that kind of good stuff. So give me the scoop. Fill me in on
Let's
that.
Let's do it. So, hi everyone. My name is Theo, and I am a content creator for Disney Lorcana. I'm from Ontario, Canada, and I have a massive passion for all things Nintendo and Disney. I'm currently trying to finish Majora's Mask. If anyone's played The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, it's very tricky but very fun. That is currently what I am doing when I'm not doing Lorcana. But my love for Disney and all things Lorcana really started at a young age. My mom was actually a member of the Disney Clubhouse. I don't know if anyone remembers that. I don't even know if that's still a thing, but anyways, they used to
I
send
don't
us
know.
like videos for like a subscription. So we used to like always subscribe into that, and we got to watch things as they were released, like Enchanted and The Incredibles, and also like some old favorites as well, like The Little Mermaid and Toy Story. And actually, a fun fact is that I have a huge fear of Sid Phillips. So when Sid Phillips was released last set, I was not the happiest camper. And a lot of people watched me open Sid on stream on my Twitch. And it was like I was getting made fun of. But I mean, I do love the Toy Story franchise. I don't know if I'll ever go back to the first one, but I'm coming to terms with that fear. Sid doesn't scare me as much as he used to. I'm okay with a toy surgeon now. One of my biggest memories was going to Disneyland or Disney World actually in Florida,
Mhm.
in grade 5 with my family. And one of my favorite events from that was going to see Fantasia. It's like the live action that they do or
Yep.
did. This was all a while ago. But playing Lorcana and seeing cards like Mickey Mouse Playful Sorcerer, for example, continues to remind me of those big memories. So I'm really, really intrigued in Disney Lorcana, not only because I love Disney, but because it gives me those memories that I had as a child. So I love it for that. I started Lorcana actually in set 1, the first chapter. I know, like somehow Lorcana Theo got product because a friend of mine who I was working with at the time, his name is Evan. He's super cool, and I'm sure he's going to watch this. So shout out to Evan. He's like, whoa, there's this new Disney card game. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's for Disney, and it's so expensive right now. Like starter decks are looking at about $50, but it seems
Yep.
worth it. So we should try it. And so we both got our hands on the Sapphire, Steel, Aurora, and Simba decks. There
Hmm.
was the starter decks from chapter 1. And until we were able to get more cards, which wasn't until set 2, set 3, we were just, playing out starter decks, those starter decks and having like the best time. And then, of course, Pixelborn came into the picture and made it a little bit more accessible to play Lorcana for free and online until unfortunately it was sadly shut down. But during the time that I started Lorcana, I was actually going through a lot of change in my life. I had just finished university, which was super exciting, but also very, I don't want to say depressing, but like it was very difficult because I, was changing up my routine completely. I wasn't, living with my best friends anymore in residence. I wasn't, going out and having some fun for university life. I was now living back at home, trying to save money. I started my job, which was very exciting. So I was having like the best year of my career right after university, but like the worst year of my life. All my friends were gone, moved back home. I moved back home, and everything that was, exciting in college life now was like boring in adult life, I want to say.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
so there was that. I love studying, so there was never anything there. I love going outside with my friends and being a part of like a team or like a community, so there was a lot of that when I was in college, and that all went away. And so I tried to find some new hobbies. Nothing ever really stuck with me though until Lorcana really came around. So although I was feeling like I was behind, people were going out and getting married, having kids, like living that post grad life, I was just like moved home, and I was like, okay, what am I doing with my life? And so it was really people like Evan who were like, let's try this game, let's try something new, let's get out there and see what it's like. And so we started playing actually before work, those starter decks every morning, and people would come up to us and ask us, they'd be like, what card game are you guys playing? And we'd be like, oh, it's just a Disney princess game, nothing serious. We'd have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And then it was in set 3 when Evan convinced me to go to our local LGS for the first time. And I was so nervous. I remember I was like playing against you. I was like shaking. I was so scared. But I started to realize after like my first few 2, 3 games, I was like, wait, this isn't actually as bad as I think it is. So although I was like super nervous at first, and actually I was one of the first people I remember ever playing against is one of my best friends now. Her name is Mandy, and she is like continues to play Lorcana with me all the time. And I remember playing against her, and she's like, Theo, I look back on that first day of us together, and you have changed so much. I was so scared, but I, needed to overcome that fear and realize that like it's not as bad as I think it is. Everyone's just here for a good time, and so am I. And so I started to really use that as my forefront or my philosophy, and it really helped me feel more secure and grounded when I put my deck on the table and start to play. So it was in set 3, I had my first set championships, and I came top 8th, and I think there was about 20 to 30 people there. I was on Old Reliable, Ruby Amethyst. It was my pet deck at the time. I loved Ruby Amethyst because it felt so good when you just be prepared that board and everything washed away, and it was like,
Maybe for you.
yeah, for me,
Yeah.
for me at least, right?
Yeah.
And I remember feeling so good all the time about, be prepared. And I just had so many reps with the deck. So of course it went well. Unfortunately, the Stitch promo, which was the set 3 promo for set champs at the time, was only to the top 4, but I still left with a huge sense of accomplishment. So it didn't really matter to me. I was like, I got what I needed, which was my first instance of a big like Lorcana tournament, essentially.
Yep.
And so I started going to the gym a lot more. I felt I needed to push myself and started getting more reps with my Lorcana decks and things like that. And it wasn't really until Shimmering Skies where I started to find myself more as like the competitive player I see myself as today. And so as I started becoming more competitive, specifically in the Shimmering Skies set, my love for Lorcana really, really grew. And this, of course, stems from my background. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I love Pokemon. I was never competitive. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With 3 of my best friends, and we all, I don't even know if we were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Right at the time, but some of my best memories from elementary school and even high school a bit too were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With some of our favorite cards. And that, I think, really stemmed the love for TCG in me. Like the idea of like, you build your deck, you sit down at the table, and you're going to bring everything you know about your list into that match. And I think that's really what excited me about any sort of TCG, whether it's Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, things like that. I don't even think I know how to play the Pokemon TCG either. I'm pretty sure we just looked at the characters, looked at the powers or the attack, and we were like, "Mine beats yours," and that's how we played. That's how we played it
Close
back then on
enough.
the playground.
Yeah.
And so with that, I like I was saying, I loved Yu-Gi-Oh, loved Pokemon at the time. Disney was a big thing, but it was never a TCG until a lot later. But of course, I think at the forefront of all my interests, it was always Pokemon. And in my bio and a lot of places it says like from the Hoenn region, and people
Mm-hmm.
actually wonder like why do you have that there? And the reason that is because my first ever Pokemon games were set or Generation 3. It was Pokemon Sapphire. And one of my best memories with the game is literally waking up early that Christmas morning because I got it on Christmas. I think was it released? 2003, 2004, around that era, a long time ago. And I'm surprised I still remember this, but I remember grabbing a black marker and I knew this had to be a Game Boy game because Santa wrapped that gift and I felt it and I was like like Game Boy Advance cartridges have a very or the boxes at least have a very distinct box. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember being like, this is going to be a Game Boy game. So I remember crossing out my brother's name on it and putting on my own. And although Santa never found out,
That's
my mom
awesome.
definitely did, and she was very disappointed in me for ruining Santa's handwriting that day.
Oh, come on. That's funny.
So that's kind of my villain origin story when it comes to like all things Nintendo, Disney, Yu-Gi-Oh, TCGs, and I continue to play and love Lorcana today. I don't find myself a lot in Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just so expensive to get into the other things.
Yeah.
But of course, when people post stuff online about them, or there's a new set coming out, I do love to see what the new cards look like and how the games are playing out now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, you mentioned the whole nervousness aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because this game does draw in a lot of people that haven't played TCGs before. It's interesting to talk to, a lot of the people that I talk to, honestly, to talk to them about it, and they have the same kind of feelings, right? It's that I don't know what to expect. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the level of confidence that I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
need to have to go and actually play with other real people that aren't
Yeah.
aren't the people I usually play with, but yeah, and the same thing, it's the confidence boost of you sit down, you start playing, it's the same thing, it's just against another person, right? A different
Exactly.
person.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that realization makes things, it just opens things up so much more, like you were saying, it kind of unlocked, I guess, parts of your life that you were kind of a little like restricted about.
Mm-hmm.
And you really got out there after that. And and there's a lot of people that is kind of what these games do, right? They provide that sense of community. They provide the that link, and suddenly you say, oh yeah, I can do these other things because I
Mm-hmm.
overcame that fear. I went to an LGS, I played in a set champs, that kind of stuff. And it gives people that boost of confidence.
Yeah.
And it's fun, so it's a nice pleasurable experience. And
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to have that kind of thing in your life. And I know you go to your locals, is it once a week do you usually go?
Yeah, every Thursday.
Okay, yeah. And to have that kind of like that structure, right? To be able to
Mm-hmm.
have that group of people that you go and you start to get to know, and you all love this game, and so you build around that kind of shared passion. And
Mm-hmm.
and then you start finding out about them and finding out about their families and their interests, and you build up this whole community around you, which is really cool in my opinion, that just a silly little cardboard game can build that kind of thing around it, and make
Exactly.
such a difference in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's cool. I always enjoy hearing those stories. There's a lot of them are similar, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, a lot of people, this is their first TCG, but then I also talk to a lot of people and they've played Magic for 20 years, or
Yeah.
something like that. And having a game where all of those people want to come in and play, and some of it is the Disney connection, like you were
Mm-hmm.
mentioning, there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I'm a huge Disney fan. And so as soon as I found out there was a game, I was in.
Hmm.
But then there's actually a couple of people that I've talked to that they're like, like when I get to the end of the episode and I ask about like favorite, Disney movie and all that, there's been one or two that I've talked to and they're like, I'm just not a huge Disney fan. And I'm like, why are you playing this game? No, no. But yeah, having that connection as well, because I think Disney is such a like a huge part of a lot of kids, a lot of times growing up, and you have those certain movies that you really love or
Hmm.
characters that you don't really like, you know, and and you have that again that shared connection, and I think it
Yeah.
really makes a huge difference as far as who gets drawn to the game and kind of the community that's built around it. So
Hmm. One thing I love about Lorcana in regards to other TCGs, for example, is it's so simplified, but in a complex way, if that makes sense.
yep.
And I wanna elaborate on that. I was playing Riftbound just to try and see how it played out, and just to try and see what the hype was when the first set of Riftbound came out.
Mhm.
And I remember playing it. And one thing I didn't love about Riftbound was that my turn sometimes didn't always feel like my turn, right? Like I would play out my cards and do whatever, but there were a lot of counter spells or counter synergies that my opponents would do. And I'd have to, understand how to work around them, which I think is very complex and very elaborate. And, shout out to the people that can do that. But one piece of Lorcana that I absolutely love is the agency I have over my turn, where as soon as my opponent, or if I'm starting first, it's different, but as soon as my opponent says pass, right now it's my turn to explore the game. It's my turn to put on the board what I want to put on the board. It's my turn to quest or trade if I need to. And I just like that because it makes it so that I'm not always concerned about what's going on in my opponent's hand. Do I need to watch out for this and this? But rather that I can just focus on what's in my hand, establish a board, establish something that I think is what's suitable for that time and position in the Lorcana match, and go from there. And so that's why I think Lorcana will probably stick with me for a very long time. And I love TCGs now. My love for TCGs has grown, but I don't see myself really going into a lot of any other TCGs anytime soon because, like I said, like I've tried, I put my foot in the door. I tried Riftbound. It was a lot different than Lorcana in ways. It was the same as Lorcana in ways. So I found I had the upper end there in comparison to players who are very new at TCGs, for example, and who wanted
Mhm.
to put their League of Legends love to life. But I don't see myself going into any other TCGs because the community of Lorcana is so beautiful, right? We're meeting so many friends again who love this game, or maybe who just love the Lorcana characters.
Yep.
Um, and it's just so simplified, but in a complex way. There, you can play it in a way where it suits you, but the more reps you get, the stronger you become, the more what's the word I'm looking for, the more skillful you become, the better player you become. I don't even think there's ever going to be a ceiling for Lorcana. I think every new set, I think every card brings something different to the table, and it's just so incredible to see such a well thought out engineered game be such an exciting, all aged game as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's I've talked to other people in the past, and kind of talking about the structure of the game and everything. And they've mentioned other games that they played that like they've been good, solid gameplay, but they're
Hmm.
not that interesting, right?
Right.
And then you have ones that are, the gameplay is just like way too technical, and so it's
Hmm.
not fun except for a certain group of people that like really, really enjoy that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, I totally agree. Lorcana kind of hits that sweet spot right in the middle,
Yeah.
right? You get enough to where like you do have the strategy, and especially like I feel like especially in the last two sets with Wilds and Attack of the Vine. Sorry. Um had to be done. Um but we're getting so many new like it's not necessarily completely new mechanics, but it's new
Hmm.
takes on the same stuff.
Right.
Like with Vine, we get like the combo shift or
Mhm.
the potato shift, or there's lots of cards that especially in Attack of the Vine, that are more about you discarding
Mhm.
versus oh, whenever you're discarding a card, like your opponent forced you to discard a card. It's more about like,
Mhm.
I'm choosing to do this. um
Right.
and so it's really cool to see them really work to kind of keep it simple, so
Mhm.
that anybody could go pick up the starter decks, or the beginner, what's the bundle called now, where it's the,
Yeah, the beginner's deck, we'll call it,
yeah,
sure.
I
Something
forget,
like
yeah.
that. The
But they can go pick that up and they can just start playing, right?
Mhm.
And it's everything they need to have two people. I'm very glad that they, as much as I liked the single player decks,
Yeah.
to have a two person or a two deck kind of thing where you can just pick it up and go play,
Yeah.
is huge, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you are, I mean, we're only, what is it, 2-ish years, 2.5, something like that,
I
years in.
believe so, something like that. It hasn't been out
Yeah.
for a long time, which boggles my mind because I feel like I've been doing this forever at this point.
I know, right? You look back at the first chapter, you're like, oh, it was so long ago. It was like,
Yeah.
12 sets ago or whatever. But it really hasn't been that long.
No.
When you look at stuff like Magic, which has been around for, 30 years or whatever,
Mhm.
I firmly believe that Lorcana will get there someday. It will
I
be
think so
like,
too.
set 110 or something by that point. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely, I also appreciate the time that they put into the game to really,
Mhm.
they've kept that simplicity focus. They've kept the enough complexity to where you have high level players that come
Yeah.
from other games to come and
Mhm.
play Lorcana, because
Mhm.
that part of it attracts them. They're like, yeah,
Mhm.
okay, it's not just a silly little Disney game. It's actually a pretty layered, complicated thing when you start getting down to it. Especially with like Infinity gameplay. I
Mhm.
know we were talking a little bit earlier, and you said you're not a huge fan of Infinity, but and I totally get it. I mean, when you have 12, 13 sets out there to potentially pick from, it's a lot, right?
It's overwhelming.
It really is. And to have to come from a core kind of gameplay where you might have 5 different decks that are kind of the main ones in the meta, and then you can kind of vary from there. It definitely does kind of provide you those guardrails sometimes that that kind of helps, especially with newer players. So
Yeah, it's so nice to see like younger players in the game as well. Even some of them, like Neil and Bradley, for example. Bradley
mhm.
is like, so young, but has the capacity to play at the skill level as someone who's been playing trading card games for like 30 years. So it's
Yeah.
just so incredible to see that no matter who you are, no matter your age group, no matter how involved you have been or are in TCGs, like everyone is at a great starting point when it comes to Lorcana. And, just get those reps in, really try your best, have fun, meet your group, play some games, have your testing team, and just like, win those tournaments, have a great time. I think anyone can go into a tournament and be just as successful as the other person solely based on the fact of that the way Lorcana is made.
Yep. Yeah, and it's amazing to see how many, like when we have DLCs and we have these larger events, to
Mhm.
see how many of the people that do make those top cuts are people that haven't played a TCG before.
Mhm.
They do really well just because they are invested in the game. They are, it really tickles that part of their brain where they really, that makes them happy to be able to
Yeah.
play competitively and really, win and hone those skills. Some
Yeah.
people, it's not necessarily about, oh, I have to make it to a DLC and get
Mhm.
first and everything. It's just about, I want to continuously get better at the game. And if
Mhm.
that happens to be, or happens to mean that yeah, you win a DLC, cool, but it's more about the drive to be better at it, you
Right.
know?
And I think that it should be the forefront of almost everything we do, right? In life, it's like we can do one thing really well, but how do we continuously become better at that thing? And TCGs, physical exercise, things like that, all of those things like really entail that same idea. And so it's nice to make those connections, right? Whether it's your job or whether it's your like hobbies or things like that, like always at the forefront of at least my style is like, how do I become better at this? Why am I at a stalemate here? What do I need to do to improve? So I recently started doing tutoring in Lorcana more often, and not like me tutoring, but getting tutored by other people. And like someone who's been playing this since set one, I was like, why would I need to get tutored? Like, I'm fine. But there are so many different perspectives in the world. There are so many different ideas and um, players and things like that who want to help everyone grow and become more successful. So it's like picking that up has not only helped me become a better player, but it's also helped me meet more people as well and get these different perspectives and ideas because there are some really great players out there. I cannot lie. I am
Yeah.
okay. I think I am a good player. Do I think I'm the best of the best? Absolutely not. Do I think I want to become the best of the best? Probably not, but I would like to get close to it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's so nice that no matter who you are, like it's okay to like be vulnerable for a second and be like, I have no idea how to play Amber Emerald Dogs. Like I just keep losing. Like, what is your take? And then they say, here's the Zoom link. Let's do this. And
Yep.
it's just so worth it because that's the best way to become a better player. Getting in those reps with someone who's going to tell you everything that you did well and your next steps is always the success to being a lifelong learner, like no matter what. And so I'm so happy with my decisions that I continue to make to become that stronger player where, yeah, I'm not perfect. And I don't think I'll ever, fully have those games where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have misplayed this, and that. Like, but with the support of others, you definitely get closer to those games where you don't make as many misplays. You find the perfect answers to everything you need, right? A lot of people when they're playing Lorcana, and I see this, they lose a game and they don't reflect on why that game was lost, right? They were just
Yep.
like, oh, didn't get the cards. Two or three, they start looking at the top cards of their deck. They're like, oh, if I had this card 5 turns later,
Yeah.
I would have
Yeah.
been just fine. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's really great, but we need to focus on why it didn't happen right now because every deck, honestly, I mean, we're in a world right now where Amber Amethyst is, or not Amber Amethyst, but Amber Emerald is just
Yeah.
dominating. But every deck has a chance to be successful, at least on the play. And I think it's our jobs as players to really know, okay, how do I establish a really strong gameplay on the play, and how do I make it so that I don't lose on the draw? And I
Mhm.
think once you establish that, you really become a stronger player at Lorcana.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, there's so many people that I talk to that they're like, I ask them about their preparation for like a DLC or,
Mhm.
even a set chance and everything. And basically, the majority of them say, either I looked into the other decks that are part of the current meta,
Mhm.
or I practiced with the other decks, so that they understood those play lines. They knew what to
Yeah.
expect. They're like, they may not be the best at the other decks because it's not
Mhm.
the one they chose to play.
Mhm.
But to be able to understand, the common play lines,
Mhm.
the strengths and the weaknesses of these other decks, is huge. To
Mhm.
be able to like really understand how to play your own deck and how to really play into it as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's
you know,
something special about having a pet deck, like, or
yep.
quote pet deck, right? Your deck that you stick with, your color combination you love. But I think there's also something very important about being able to put in at least a few reps with the other color combinations as well,
Mhm.
so that way you're familiar with what their mulligan might look like, what their first few turns will play out to be, and how you can establish beating that deck because you've played it before. You should know what it's trying to do to win, and you should know how to beat that out so that you can win.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Totally agree. Well, speaking of learning about decks,
Mhm.
um, your content on your channel
Mhm.
focuses a lot on looking at current decks, kind of reviewing that kind of stuff. So I'm really curious, especially when I talk to content creators, I like to, get their perspective on this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, So when first off, let me ask, is this the first time that you've made like content, like YouTube videos or anything, or
Yeah, it was never supposed to be anything major. It was about a little over a year ago, actually, when I started Lorcana Theo. I just started a Twitter page, and I have a huge love for deck building. Like, I love deck building, and one thing I love about deck building actually is that you can actually see someone's play style by the way that they deck build. And let me elaborate on that. I have two, I guess we could say, sides or two spectrums of a deck builder. There's like the Ed Chu, who's going to do 4 hours of everything. It's going to be very consistent. It's going to have a linear game plan. It's not going to be something super easy to pick up, but shouldn't be super challenging to get familiar with once you have the reps with. And then there's the Frank Karsten side of deck building where everything's like a one of, and it's, there's 3 to 4 lines on that Dreamborn page, and you just look at it and you're like, what is going on here? And I find
why?
myself definitely more tailored towards the Ed Chu side just because I love the consistency of having 4 ofs. But then, of course, I applaud and I praise the people who are the Frank Karsten deck builders who understand, like, like maybe one Amethyst Pocahontas in the Amethyst Steel lineup, that one that when she quests, she gains lore based off of another exerted character's lore. Like, that card is great into the more control matchups. If you tech in one of those and like you can find that every single time you're against a control deck, like go for it. But for me, I'm a lot more of a how do I say it? A lot more of a consistent player where it's like, okay, I just know what my 1, 2, 3, 4 looks like. I'm gonna go from there. If it goes well, great. If not, I will know how to adapt on the spot and try my best to overcome what my opponent's challenging at me. However, when it came to the Lorcana Theo page, because I want to get back on track there, I was posting stuff on Twitter and I was posting my deck lists. And I started to notice they were getting a lot of traction. Like, they were getting likes. People were going on my Dreamborn page. They were following. They were saving the deck lists. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, I never saw myself, especially a year ago, like as like somewhat of a major competitive player. But no matter who I was, no matter, the 300, 400 followers I had at the time, like, no matter who I was, people were like obsessed with these lists. They were like, we want more. We want you to talk about it. And, I was getting DMs of people who were like, oh, this list looks great. Like, what does the mulligan look like? What should I be doing my first few turns? Things like that. And so I said, okay, I need to somehow get Lorcana Theo beyond 250 characters on Twitter because like, people want to know, right? And so they want to hear your thoughts about the decks that you've made and things like that. So I started the YouTube channel about a year ago, and I posted, it was an Amber Sapphire aggro list that I absolutely loved. It wasn't meta. It wasn't anything like going to take you to the top of the DLC, but it was something where I was like, this could be cool at a set championships or maybe at your locals. And then it gained like a lot of traction. Like, I think the video right now has over like 1,000 views. And, I was like, okay, there's something here. Now, I never expected, and I still don't expect to be like this big deck building YouTuber. But when I post my lists, or when I post the lists that I've constructed, or whether those are lists that other people have helped me construct, or whether those are lists that I've found on other pages and I just want to talk about them, like, people really enjoy that content. And so I just wanted to keep doing that. The Lorcana Theo page not only stemmed from my name being Theo, but it kind of sounded like I was saying Lorcana Hero. And so I guess if I could explain my channel in like, one sentence or one word, it would be like, just wanting to be a hero for deck building. Like, I just love deck building, whether my lists are good or not. People seem to enjoy them. So I have a really big passion for that. Like I said, you can really tell someone's like play style by the way they build their decks. And I find deck building to almost be like a kind of an art because, you make these beautiful, amazing deck lists with these awesome Lorcana cards, and you post them online, right? Or you showcase them on your Dreamborn or on your YouTube and whatnot. And yeah, you're gonna have people who applaud them and say, like, this is so cool. I can't wait to bring this to my locals or my set championships. But you're also going to have people, right? And just like any artwork would, who's going to tear it down, who's going to be like,
Yeah.
you should try this, or maybe don't put that in your deck list. And I love that because it's getting me into the community, which was another big piece of Lorcana Theo. It's always about trying to establish myself as someone in the community who wants to work with other people, who wants to explore deck lists and gameplay and things like that with other people. But it's also just a way for me to become a better player. Like, I love it when people tear my list down because, like I said earlier, everyone's got different perspectives. What really cool to one person might be completely different to another person, right? And so on and so forth. So many different people are putting the reps in online, and it's so awesome to see those kinds of things happening. Because when I do get to have those like meetings or those moments where I get to talk to other Lorcana players, they're going to start bringing up their gameplays and their matches that they've had with other players and talk about what went well in those matches, what they could change, some tech options for what the meta is becoming and things like that. And, I'm going to bring in my perspective and my ideas as well. And then it's really putting those ideas together. And I think that's where the best deck lists come from. It's not making them by yourself. It's really having that community idea of like, here's a list. What do we think? Some people, like I said, are going to praise it. Some people are going to tear it down. But putting that all together is what's really going to come about what I believe to be some of the best deck lists of Disney Arcana.
Yeah, totally agree. And as somebody who struggles with, with deck building, and I've made a few of them in the past that have been moderately successful. But to have the perspective of someone who has as much passion for it as you do, to be able to kind of get that insight, get inside their mind a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about why you chose a certain card, how it works better with different cards, and then to be able to put that out there, like you're saying, get the feedback on it, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
an in-person kind of feedback or just some random person on the internet leaving a comment on a video.
Yeah.
um to be able to have that collaborative experience goes so much farther than just a single person,
Yeah.
because yeah, you can be the best competitive player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You can go out and win all the DLCs and everything, but if you're locking that knowledge away and you're not sharing that information with other people, I feel like you're missing out on a huge piece of the overall community.
Totally.
Because we all have this love of the game, and to be able to have that kind of stuff, some people are really good at just getting sitting down, building a deck, and that deck is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
They're just
Agreed.
people
Oh
that's
yeah.
just the way their mind works.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people that they're having fun and they want a deck that they can play and
Mm-hmm.
understand and have fun.
Yeah.
And to be able to have videos like yours that kind of walk through that stuff helps so much for people to be able to really understand, okay, here's 60 cards. I kind of know how these all work together, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the play lines are without, putting in like 100 games of reps to be really,
Yeah.
really understand it. Why is this card in here? What is it teching for? All that kind of stuff is just such valuable information. And to have
Mm-hmm.
people like you that are open and willing to share that is huge. It's the whole rising tide lifts all boats kind of idea, right? you
Mm-hmm.
know so yeah, I appreciate the content that you put out there. Like
Thank
I said,
you.
as somebody who is definitely not a very good deck builder, it's nice to get that information. And even if it's not specifically the deck that I like playing, or is going to be something that I could see myself playing in the future,
Mm-hmm.
um sometimes it sparks a little something, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at it, you're watching the video, and you're like, wait a minute, he just said that about this card. I wonder if that applies to the deck, this card in the other deck as well. So then you
Yeah.
start kind of formulating your own stuff. And
Yeah.
it's really fun. It's interesting. I think that's you call it an art. It is definitely an art, with all of our little, creative pieces and the fitting together those puzzles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's a skill to deck build, and it definitely does not come easily. I will look back at my older videos and I will look at myself and I will say, what I was I even thinking? Like, I have no idea. But
Yeah.
now I think I've become a lot more established and comfortable in my own deck building, where I know exactly what I want. I know which pieces I want to be consistent. I know which cards I want to be tech. Now, of course, we're in a new rotation, so things are changing a lot.
Yeah.
But I still have an idea of what I want my decks to look like, right? And then I, put those out in the world, and then a lot of people seem to really enjoy that. And then, like I said, I get positive feedback, I get negative feedback, but all feedback is great feedback because it just makes me a stronger player, and it makes other people a stronger player as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And you as an educator understand this probably better than anybody, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the best parts about like making content like this and sharing your ideas and sharing, what you've created basically is that it helps you learn more about it as well, right? You
Yeah.
have somebody that comes in with a comment and you're like, oh, actually, I never thought about that,
Yeah.
or it forces you when you're making the content to really think through, what are the lines? What is this card for? And to really be able to, to vocalize it and, be able to make it into a coherent statement that actually, you can share out there and people will be like, oh yeah, okay, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It forces you to learn more about yourself, your play style, your card knowledge, and all that. So it's a
Yeah. So
it's a
that's
fun little side effect, I guess.
exactly. So that's really where Lorcana Theo came from. It was just me posting my deck list on Twitter. People really liked that. I was like, okay, we got to get this a larger scale. I then started posting on YouTube, and then it was like people really enjoyed that as well. And I was like, whoa, I can learn a lot from this, and I can grow a lot from this. So that's how it all came to be.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel like you kind of mentioned looking back at some of your old videos and some of the some of the choices and what you said in those videos, but how do you feel that your content has kind of evolved over time? I know you've been doing it for about a year, so there's probably some changes in that time, but I'm always curious, kind of looking back at that earlier content.
I try to stay away from my earlier content because it makes me cringe. So that's one way I know that I've grown. Um,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
um, but no, for real, like I think I know I've grown because, like I was saying earlier, like I know exactly what I want in my deck list. I think when I was posting them earlier and in my content as well, I think when I was posting like early on, I never fully knew what I wanted from my channel. Sometimes I'd post gameplay videos, sometimes I'd post like reviews, things like that. But it was never like fully what I wanted to do. Like I always just was just like, I just want to post another deck list. Like I just want to like have people see what they think about it and things like that. And so that content started to like subside. And then the deck building and, the meta guides and showcasing and things like that all really came to be. Because as much as, I love just showcasing decks, I also just love talking about how a color combination is doing in Lorcana. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of people like that as well. I get a lot of comments that are like, they're like, thank God this isn't behind a Metafy paywall. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just a person. Like, I'm not like an established pro player. I'm just me. Like, I'm not going to charge you guys like $15 for content that might be not even very good, to be quite honest. But like, at the end of the day, like, I know people love it. And one of the most rewarding things for me is when someone takes a deck list of mine or changes it and makes it their own, or even just keeps it the same and then brings it to like their set championships or their tournament. And they come to me in like the DMs or in the comments with their results. And a
Mhm.
lot of times they're like, I just took this to first place at set champs. You're the GOAT. And I'm like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like,
That's
that is
awesome.
so awesome. And it's like literally the reason why I have the drive to continue doing it. Because yes, it's like people are commenting on my stuff and, helping me fix up the deck list, but they're also like learning so much from it where, like you said, like I am an educator. I'm like helping people succeed. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I don't know. I just love it so much. The way the content has played itself and has come out now, and the way I know exactly what I want from the content after, the year of establishing the page and whatnot.
Mhm.
It's just like I have an idea. It's going to do a lot with deck lists, of course, but it's going to be so worth it in the end because so many people are going to continue to become more successful at playing. I'm going to become more successful at playing. And I think that's what the most important part is of content creation, especially in a game like this, right? Of course, it's to engage and excite people and, get them eager about maybe a new set or what's going on in the format right now. But it's also to help them grow and become stronger. And that's where I really like to find my page in or find myself in.
Nice, nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me to see what kind of like goals and what really drives people to create the content that they're making.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely obviously it shows with yours, the love of deck building and everything. But yeah, it's always cool to find those motivations, because it is such a key thing, right? Anybody can go out there and make videos, but there's a lot of people that do, and they start off strong and they're like, oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to totally make all these videos and it's going to be
Yeah.
great. And and then it starts kind of settling in, maybe it's not quite what they thought it was going to be, or
Mm-hmm.
it's a little more work or something like that. But when you have the kind of passion that especially you do for
Mm-hmm.
for the deck building pieces and just the community and the game in general, that passion really fuels that want and that need for creating this content. It really helps
Yeah.
you stick with it. And you don't have that passion, then it's hard.
Exactly. Sometimes, like when it comes to, scripting a video, editing a video, getting the slide set up, things like that, sometimes it can take like 8 or 9 hours before I'm like, I'm officially done with this video. Like, I can't even look at this again. Um, and,
Yeah.
you like you were saying, Chris, like you have to have such a drive. Like there are some days where I'm like, I don't really want to do it. But most days, like I'm like, I will start like thinking about a deck list and then I will make it. And I'm like, there's got to be some way I can get this out into the world, or like, there's got to be some way I can talk about this because it's just so good. And I mean, like, my page isn't always all about like deck showcasing and things, especially my Twitter. Like, I do post memes and stuff on there, but
Yeah.
I mean, I just get to have fun either way. So, yeah.
Well, and honestly, that's one of the best parts about content creation. You can make it what you want it to be. It's
Yeah.
not anybody out there saying you have to have this kind of channel and this kind of content for it to be, worth anything.
Yeah.
It's like, there's people that, especially on, Instagram and TikTok, and they just kind of post like, goofy Lorcana related stuff,
And we love it.
and we love it. Yeah,
And we love
it's
it.
great. It's
Yeah.
not competitive gameplay. It's not,
Mm-mm.
in-depth deck analysis kind of stuff. But I feel like you have to have kind of that variety, and to be able to have a community in a game that, invites that kind of variety and accepts it,
Mm-hmm.
is really huge. It's not just, oh, the only thing that's really good is, competitive content.
Oh
you
no,
know
I'm watching so many other things. Like right now, a big boom in the Lorcana industry is honestly the stocks. I don't know how to say this, but like the cards are at, which cards to get,
Oh
things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. The
yeah.
market watch,
Hmm.
the Lorcana Goons market watch. That's a big one,
Yep.
and like it's just so interesting that there are so many different avenues that content creators have found themselves in, whether that's posting memes, whether that's deck building, showcasing things like that, whether that's the short reels and the Instagram, or what is it, YouTube shorts, Instagram reels. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
I'm still comprehending all that. The TikToks, right? Things like that. There's
Yep.
so much different content that Lorcana players can engage themselves in out there. And it's just so exciting to see, that not everyone's making the exact same things. Everyone's got a different perspective and a different avenue that they're taking with their content creation. And then, that's I think what makes the community so diverse and so special.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so nice to be able to find stuff that you like watching, you enjoy, and
Hmm.
it's not always the same, right? Sometimes maybe you do want something more competitive, and sometimes you
Hmm.
just want something goofy. But to be able to have players, because there are so many different types of players, you've got the casual, you've got the kind of competitive, you got the super competitive,
Hmm.
to have that wide range of content and to find the stuff that you like or that you feel like watching at the time,
Yeah.
that you can kind of identify with, is such a huge thing for building the community as well, right?
Mhm.
it validates someone to say, oh, I'm going to go over and watch some of the stuff that Rebecca Quest puts out,
Yeah.
because I want something light. I want something casual.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling right now. But then the next day they may want to watch a, in-depth deck, evaluation kind of thing.
Mhm.
But to have those options is huge in my opinion.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think that's what separates a lot of the Lorcana community from other communities because, like, for example, Yu-Gi-Oh, there's definitely cosplay and things involved, but it's the Disney characters that Lorcana brings is something so special because it entails a goofiness, no pun intended, a goofiness in all of us, whether we're, posting a meta guide or posting just a short YouTube reel, things like that, or an Instagram reel, like to be something like exciting, engaging, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just a Disney card game.
Yeah.
It's just something that we can have fun with. So I definitely love Lorcana for that reason as well.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you're about a year in now.
Hmm.
What does the next year look like for you and your content?
I definitely want to, of course, do more deck guides and deck showcases. That's the forefront. And then with my Twitch, I love opening my boxes and things on Twitch. Like it's so fun to pull an enchanted and have that Twitch chat go absolutely wild. Like
Yeah.
that to me is like the best thing ever. I could open my boxes in my living room by myself, and that is still exciting. But when I get to, open on Twitch, like, and I have like, 13, 14 people watching, let's say, like it's so fun because A, they're engaged, and B, as soon as the big hits come, like it's so riveting to like watch that chat. Like everyone goes absolutely crazy. It's like one of my favorite things ever. So I definitely see myself posting more like openings on Twitch as well. Of course, with
Mhm.
Attack of the Vine coming out, there'll definitely be something there. But I also want, I think of the future of Lorcana Theo, I also want to do more gameplay again. I did gameplay in the past, and I think there's something very vulnerable about posting your gameplay with people because, of course, when it comes to like play testing, not in the set championships or wider tournament settings, there's something like vulnerable in the sense that like you're really still learning your decks at this time or you're practicing and whatnot. And like there are so many players out there that can just look at a deck and like, you know, do amazing with it. But
Yeah.
me, like I really need to fully establish and comprehend each of the 60 cards and why they're there. And again, that's why I love deck building. And exactly why each of those cards is in that list before I'm like, okay, I know how to play this list. I know exactly what I need in each of my matchups. Like I need to, this is going to be good. So I definitely want to get more into the gameplay footage, whether that's on Twitch, whether that's on YouTube. I have an awesome friend, Wildcard, who was doing some gameplay footage with me in the past. It's just hard to get everything organized and set up. I have seen
Yeah.
others starting to, live stream from like the online platforms. So there was an idea there of trying to do that. So I think that's kind of what I want to do next is definitely some gameplay again. Because again, it's so exciting when people are like, oh, that was, that was a great play. Like I learned a lot. And there's also people who are like, maybe next time don't quest with your giant cobra because
Mhm.
that's not going to work. And that's happened to me in the past where people have, seen my gameplay and have been like, I don't know if that was the greatest move. And it's like, you know what? You're right. That wasn't the greatest move. And I'm going to learn from that. And even like sometimes when, like we were saying earlier, like when you lose, like it's one thing to be like, oh, I lost this one. I didn't get the cards I need, whatever. It's another thing when someone's in that chat, and this has happened before, where someone's in that chat and they said, if you tried this differently, I guarantee there would have been a different outcome. And it's like 100%. So I definitely want to get more into gameplay again.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I totally get the whole like vulnerable aspect of it.
Yeah.
I did with Hobbyist Novice. I did their content creator pack rush stuff this time,
Okay.
and so I I have not done a whole lot of gameplay on camera,
Hmm.
but it's amazing how kind of like self-conscious you feel.
Yeah.
It's like,
Everyone is
you know,
watching.
yeah, it's, and it's kind of a weird feeling to, it's one thing like when you're at a DLC or even just at set champs, and you have the people around you, you can kind of get the body language and, and little comments and stuff, you have those people right there. But when
Hmm.
it's just these faceless people watching online, I don't know
Hmm.
about you, but it makes me a little bit more nervous than even playing in person. So,
Oh, definitely. And especially when it comes to like when I like for example, when I would post the gameplay on YouTube and those games would get like 600, 700 views. It's like 600, 700 people just watched me make a mistake during that moment. Like, oh,
yeah,
come on. But
yeah,
it's like it's like we were saying, like it's you have to be so vulnerable to post your gameplay footage because like there's like going to be mistakes sometimes and you're just going to have to accept that, and there's going to be games where you just absolutely do what you needed to do, and that's fantastic. But like I was saying also, the games where I've lost, but someone has pinpointed a spot that I would have won, like for example, maybe bouncing a go-go and being able to replay it, right? Those things you don't see
hmm,
to your own eyes, but the viewer who's not in your headspace, which is like, I've got 7 cards in my hand. What am I doing with all these cards? Who's not in that headspace, right? Who's an outsider? They're really great at picking those parts and telling you them so that way you're so much better prepared next time. And you find yourself in those similar situations and you're like, oh, remember when user 345 was like, do this with your go-go? It's like, okay, let me try that this time. Then the games go really well because you learn from others, right? And that's the
yep,
best way to do it.
yep. Yeah, and the whole mental aspect of the game is just, it's a whole different story than understanding the deck and knowing how to play it, to have to like be in the right mental space while you're
Hmm.
playing, is such an important thing as well. And I know we had kind of talked a little bit about it before, some of the like mental and physical health struggles that you had been through in the past. And
Yeah.
and I know there's a lot of people that can sympathize. It seems like just in the world in general, there's a lot of people that have those kind of problems, and that they have to overcome them. And like you have like social anxiety stuff about going to an LGS and playing in a set champs, or just you know trying to figure out how to overcome some of those mental hurdles,
Hmm.
and to be able to get in the right headspace, I guess. I know I keep repeating it, but it is such
Yeah.
a it's such a huge piece of it. So
There's so much anxiety, especially when you're a new player, that comes around to playing Lorcana. As someone like me, I was diagnosed with GAD back in grade 11, which is generalized anxiety disorder. So I just live with anxiety all the time. Like that's my life. But something that's really supported me is having a great grounding system. Like my friends from my locals, like they keep me grounded, especially Mandy, who I talked about earlier, like is great at ensuring that I feel good and ready to go before any big event that I'm in. And I try and do the same for her as well. But she's really good at doing it with me, like just making sure I'm grounded and all set. And also having this idea in my mind has helped me a bit where I try to think now, and because I'm such a perfectionist, like I don't want to lose. Like I want to win, right?
oh
Of
yeah,
course,
of
that's the
course,
goal for
yeah,
everyone.
yeah,
But I think I was reading the Yu-Gi-Oh manga actually not too long ago, and there's one part in it, and it talks about how the best duelists or the best players are the players who want to win but are who are prepared to fail or prepared to lose. And so I
yeah,
really kept that in my mind, and it's like, yeah, I'm okay if I lose this, but I really want to win this, but I'm not going to stress myself out up to the point where I'm like completely like unable to do anything because I'm just so eager to win, right? I need to prepare myself that if I lose, it's okay. And if I win, that's always of course the goal. When it comes to the perspective of outsiders, because that's what another thing was too. I was like, well, if I lose this, what if people think I'm not a good player? Right? What if
yeah,
people think I just I'm a fraud? Like I don't know how to play Lorcana.
yeah,
And I started to realize as I put more and more reps in and more and went to more and more events and things like that, like nobody really cares that you came. I think I came like 100 and something place the day one of the ETB CCQ. Like I did not perform the way I wanted to. Nobody cares about your score. They care about what you've learned from that day, because you're going to apply what you've learned into your next few matches. And that's when I came back day two, and I, managed to come top 18, like out of like 150 people or something along the lines of that. Because I think I need to keep that philosophy more in my mind as well, because again, nobody is really concerned about what place you get. They're more concerned about what you learned and how you're going to apply that knowledge into your future matches, because that's going to make you more of a threat, like in your future competitions.
Yep. Yep, totally agree. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to see how, even just in the same event, it doesn't even have to be like a large scale thing like a DLC. You play one, because there's always going to be decks that you play like multiple times potentially
Mm-hmm.
in like the same set champs or the same DLC.
Right.
Those meta decks that are popular.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn those tricks as you go.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, in this match they played this, this Eleanor, and so I had to counter with this, and then when you see one the next time around, yeah, definitely, how to handle it. So you do feel a certain level of confidence, that little extra confidence boost of,
Mm-hmm.
aha, I know what to do now, versus
Yeah.
like, this seems like the right approach. I think this would be a
Exactly.
good thing. But yeah, that constant learning is so important, not
Yeah.
just like building decks and everything, but actually playing the games and playing multiple games.
Mhm. If you're willing to learn from your losses, I think you're so much better off than just trying to win every single match. And again, it's a community thing. Like I've been able to ground myself so much better with the support of my friends. And whether like it's deck building or whether it's like tutoring or testing online with friends, things like that, like at the end of the day, playing Lorcana by yourself sucks. Playing Lorcana with someone else across the table is where it's
Yeah.
at. So
Yeah.
I think Lorcana will always be better with a community, um, be better with friends, and I'm so thankful to my LGS for being able to find me those friends that I continue to prepare with today. And we're finding our way to the LCQ at the end of August, and there's another ETB event happening at the end of, or at the start of August. So, without those players and without those people pushing me, I don't even think I would want to attend these events. But having them there, I'm like, let's do it. I can't wait. Like, it's so exciting to be with other people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That support system is huge.
Mm-hmm.
For people that are new to the game, people that have been playing for a while, like you said, it's not fun. Like it's a fun game to play, but
Mm-hmm.
it's even more fun to play it with a good support system and a good community around you.
Exactly.
It just enhances the experience that much more, at least in my opinion. I know it's probably not, for everybody.
Yeah.
But I feel like it in general, it helps so much to have, whether it's, an actual like competitive team to play with,
Mm-hmm.
just people at your LGS.
Mm-hmm.
If you, play with friends, webcam games or something like that, there's all sorts of avenues to have that support system around you.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have that and really feel, like you belong, I guess.
That's the big thing. It goes back to like at the start of our interview, right? Where I was like, I have no idea where I belong. I was just finishing grad school. Like everything was up in the air. And it was really the community that I got from Lorcana and finding my place, there that really helped ground me and say, hey, I have something I can do every Thursday now. This is really cool. And then, of course, it became into something
Yeah.
much bigger than that. But at the time, I just remember it pulling me out of such a huge head funk that I was in, where everything was changing and life was becoming so much more different. And finding the magic of Disney to help replace that or repair that was really essential, to the
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The magic of Disney. That's what the
The
game's all
magic of
about, right?
Disney.
Well, hey Theo, I've had a great time getting to know you and getting to talk to you. I appreciate you sharing everything. It's been a blast. I hope you've had fun too.
I had an
Um,
absolute blast. Thank you for having me. This has been a huge, huge honor.
oh well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know, sometimes we all have busy lives and it's hard to, set aside some time. And, thankfully I've been fortunate to have such a welcoming and gracious community, for people like yourself that, I reach out to and I'm like, hey, do you want to be on? And, I think I've only gotten not right now, but
Okay.
it's never been a flat out no, which has always been nice. So
And I'm
yes,
and
I
I'm like,
appreciate
me?
you for
Why me? Like, come on. But I'm so happy that you
no,
did
no.
reach
I
out.
mean,
I
and
was
that's what.
like, oh my gosh, Chris, like this is
Yeah.
huge. I was like, Mom, I've made it.
No, no, it's not that big of a deal.
Oh, come on. The
No.
Inkwell Lounge, everyone knows the Inkwell Lounge.
Well, I don't know about that, but making me blush. Stop. Um, all right, well, cool. Well, hey, so I do want to end the episode with a slightly modified version of the questions that I usually ask everybody.
Hmm.
It's always kind of a last little get to know you kind of thing, so I enjoy it personally. Okay, so right now, your favorite ink and card, and it can be card
Ooh.
play, card art, any of that kind of stuff.
My favorite ink has to be Amber. It has a lot of my favorite characters in Amber, specifically my favorite character, which is Aurora Holding Court. I know that she is a huge meta defining card and she's kind of basic at this point, but as soon as that card was revealed, I remember just being like, I'm going to play four of this card of my in my deck, no matter
Yeah.
where I'm at. And so she became a huge aspect of like my love for Amber and like the lower to the ground strategies that Amber entails. Of course, just cheating out the princess and queen characters is always very exciting. But of course, Amber is doing much more than just that. So I would say Amber is my favorite color combination, and Aurora Holding Court is my favorite card.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
Hmm.
that is a very high quality card, and
Oh, it's so
um,
fun.
I forget. I think it was Enchanted Kim that at one of the DLCs she was playing one of the princess decks that she had put
Hmm.
together, and I happened to for that set I happened to pull four of the epic Aurora,
No,
and so she actually yeah she used those in her deck, and I was like, that's a beautiful card. That's
they're
really cool. I
selling for
mean,
like
yeah,
$60 Canadian right now. I am so upset with myself that I never bought the epic Auroras when they were like $15.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I opened
crazy.
entirely too many packs for that set. So
Honestly, worth it though, because it's
yeah,
impossible to get now.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question: favorite Disney movie and why?
Ooh, so I did prepare myself and I did bring it. If anyone's
Nice,
familiar with a VHS, I do have it on VHS. This is The
nice.
Incredibles. It is my favorite Disney movie of all time. I absolutely love superheroes, and so The Incredibles being a superhero Disney movie just connects two of those interests together. I also just loved the story behind
Yeah.
The Incredibles, like start to finish. I thought was perfect. Violet Parr is my favorite Disney character. I just felt I really resonated with the character. Growing up, I was very shy. And then as I started to grow older and older, I became more bubbly and outgoing, and the person you see literally in this chat today. So I definitely love Violet Parr and all the things that The Incredibles entails. So I would say that my favorite Disney movie has to be The Incredibles.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's, I mean, honestly, a classic at this point. I know whenever it first came out, it was kind of like it got some mixed reviews because I think people were expecting just like a general like superhero movie, but it was
Yeah.
also about like family drama and
Yeah.
and so I think a lot of people were like caught off guard. But
Yeah.
going back and watching it now, it's like, yeah, that's just kind of what it is. It's a family
Mhm.
dealing with having superpowers and dealing with a bad guy at the same time,
Yeah, and
so
like being illegal at the same time. Like the whole premise
well,
is
yeah,
that now
true.
superheroes are illegal. Like how do we
Yeah.
bring that back? And so the second movie kind of does that, but I don't like the second movie as much. Sorry, not sorry.
That's all right. Knowing Disney, they'll probably make a third one, and
Yeah,
it'll be
exactly. I think
even
they
better.
actually are planning on it already.
Oh,
So
are they?
yeah, there's
It wouldn't
that.
surprise me. Yeah.
Hmm.
But the cards, the Incredibles cards are great.
Oh,
I
shout
miss
out to Ruby
those.
Steel. Bring
Hmm.
Ruby Steel back, you guys. Let's go. I'm
Yep.
ready. I'm ready for something other than Amber Amethyst because I'm actually, or not Amber Amethyst, Amber Emerald, because I'm actually getting I'm actually getting tired of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I'm ready for a
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a Ruby Steel believer. I've tried a couple of decks in the past, and they've been okay.
It's
But
got
I
legs, this set. Like
yeah
the
yeah
new Incredibles, like the Dash and the Violet Par, both of them, and
yeah.
the Shift combo,
Hmm.
like that is just like I think the draw engine that it's a little bit slow, but it's the draw engine that Ruby Steel really needs.
Yep.
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. Though now you've inspired me. I think I might have something to do after we finish here. So
Yes, that's what I do. I talk to people, and all of a sudden they're like, "I need to make decks," and it's like, "Yep, that's what my goal is."
it's coming through the video and
Yeah,
everything.
I am
Yeah.
radiating that energy
Yeah.
onto you.
There you go. There you go. All right, well, cool. Third one, not really a question, but give some shout outs to like local folks or any other content creators or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd love to shout out my friends because without them, I wouldn't be here. Shout out to Evan, who got me into Disney Arcana and got me to my first set championships and my first locals. Like, I wouldn't have done any of that without you. So, shout out to you. Shout out to Mandy for being the best friend I've ever had for Disney Arcana. She encourages me again to go to the CCQs, the 10Ks, these bigger events that I get to have a lot of fun at. Even if I'm so scared to be at these events, like she always makes sure I'm grounded and ensures that no matter how the day goes, we're gonna have a really good meal after it, and that's what's most important.
There you
And,
go. Yeah.
shout out to Wildcard for like the best testing and tutoring sessions I've ever had. Like it's been undeniably supportive in my journey. Brad, Josh, Osmond, Petrus, Randy, Cody, Mitch, Olivia, Andrew, Pat, Aaron, Dan, Jason, and Rob. All those people continue to make me better players and more continue to make me better players than I am today, or continue to help me grow. And so I think all of them deserved a shout out. I wrote them here because I knew you were going to ask me that one. I was like, I need to make sure I hit everyone.
Oh no, trust me. You saw the outline that I sent. I'm totally a write it down kind of person too. So yep, I get you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Oh. All right, cool. Well, and last one, tell people where they can find you, your content, your decks, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me at Lorcana Theo, which I think will be in the description below if that's possible.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch for the Lorcana Theo name. I'm also on Dreamborn. That's where I love to post my deck list because I think that's the way to get them to the wider Lorcana atmosphere. So I love posting on Dreamborn. Thank you to everyone who continues to show a lot of support and love there. Of course, now we have Duels Inc., which you can post decks online as well. So I'm posting some decks there too and just having the absolute best time of my life starting this new set.
Nice. Nice.
Rotation was needed.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
I'm so ready for at least the current iteration of dogs to take
Yes.
on. It's
Yes.
going to
It's not really
evolve.
going very far, but it's at
Yeah.
least losing
Yeah.
Tramp. So that's
Yeah.
something.
Yep. All right. Well, cool. Well, Thea, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time today. And yeah, we'll see you around the community.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Chris, for having me.
Well, it was so great to get to catch up with Theo and get his perspective on the game, what it's like being a newer content creator, and the importance of continuous learning and sharing when it comes to competitive play. So, if you like the show, make sure to subscribe, rate, or like the show on your platform of choice. If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can find us on all the socials at Inkwell Lounge, or you can find a full list of links at inkwelllounge.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.